What's going on, guys? Today we have a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about Cleanspark and a lot of fear going around there. We're going to talk about insider selling. We're going to talk about dilution. And we're also going to talk about some recent Iren Energy news. Iren Energy is rallying today. We're going to talk about what's going on there. But hopefully you guys had a good weekend. Hopefully you got a nice break from stocks and crypto and everything. Had a chance to visit family, get your mind somewhere else, because it is important to take a break from time to time. But let me know what you guys did in the comments below over this weekend. Did you do an Easter egg hunt with the kids? Did you go to church? Did you get some yard work done? And before I forget, we also have a lot of money entering Bitcoin, and we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to feature a video on that. But let's get started, guys. If you get something useful out of this, make sure you like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. And first off, let's look at what's going on with Cleanspark. We have to talk about Cleanspark's share offering. This is something that if you're a swing trader, if you're just looking to play this over a week or two, over a month or so, this is definitely a negative thing. But if you're a long-term holder, if you're looking at this company in terms of 10 years, this solidifies their survival. This makes it so that, in my opinion, they are much less likely to go through any hardships, to go through any bankruptcies. They now have access to a lot of capital. This funds future growth, and we've seen this in the previous bull market. This is nothing new. In the 2020 Bitcoin halving cycle, we saw a lot of these Bitcoin miners reporting dilution. They took advantage of the run-up in stock price to make sure that the company can continue to survive, to make sure that the company has access to cash. And this isn't just Cleanspark. Riot's doing this, Mara's doing this, Bitfarms is doing this, Iren Energy is doing this. Any miners that are not doing this are going to get left behind. This is a necessary evil with these Bitcoin miners. They're in constant competition with each other to grow their hash rate as fast as possible, to remain competitive, and to remain relevant. Now, if you guys are interested, I will leave this down below for you. This is their SEC filings. You can look at any of these yourself and go over them. Feel free, they are down below in the description. Now I want to give you an example of an insider selling here and why it's something that I personally wouldn't be worried about. So here we are looking at Matt Schultz Form 4. You'll notice that he sold 367,000 shares of his total nearly 2.3 million. Now right off the bat, you'll see this is a very small percentage of overall shares that he owns. But more importantly, you'll see that this is checked. Check the box to indicate that the transaction was made pursuant to a contract, instruction, or written plan that is intended to satisfy the rule 10b5/1 parentheses C. Now, what is this rule? Well, this is essentially a trading plan. They did not go and sell these shares because they knew they were going to dilute. This was a predetermined plan. And basically, this rule 10b5-1 allows insiders of publicly traded corporations to set up a trading plan for selling stocks that they own. And it permits major holders to sell a predetermined number of shares at a predetermined time. Many executives use this plan to avoid accusations of insider trading. Trading based on special non-public information. They set up these plans so that they cannot be accused of that. Many of these execs are rewarded in stock-based compensation, and it makes sense that they want to take some money off the table. It makes sense that they want to take some of those shares, potentially diversified into other companies, potentially put it into other assets. Maybe they have some big ticket items they want to buy. We can only speculate the reason for setting up this plan in the first place. But if I was an executive of a company and if I was constantly receiving shares, I would definitely diversify those shares into either other stocks in the market, diversify that money and put some into my savings account, pay off my house, things like that. You can only speculate what these executives want to do with this money. I find it not very alarming. I find it not very surprising that they are taking some profits as the stock runs up, that they are diluting as the stock price runs up. If you guys were here in the last bull cycle, you know exactly what's going on. We are going to see these companies dilute shares. And you know, if you guys remember last cycle, if it wasn't for Cleanspark being so aggressive with their Bitcoin selling during the bear market, if it wasn't for Cleanspark being so aggressive with their dilution, they would not be where they are now. So of course, you know, dilution is not seen as a positive necessarily, but if this is a ride or die stock for you, if this is a long-term stock, you know that this dilution solidifies their growth. And in reality, it is a necessary evil. The miners that dilute are going to survive. The miners that don't are probably going to fade away. But let me know if you guys see it that way for Cleanspark, or if you're a bit pissed off by this news. And next up, I got to give my kids some cereal, and I'll be right back. Alright, next up we have to talk about this $1 trillion flood coming to Bitcoin amid strong institutional rumors. And I've got a clip to show you guys, but I will leave the article down below.
Bitcoin and crypto have indisputably been in a bull market for many months, if not already over a year. But is that quote unquote raging bull market just getting started? My friend Matt Hogan from Bitwise, the CIO, believes that there's $1 trillion more still yet to come in inflows through the ETF, and that this raging bull market has just begun. Let's see what he had to say. Bitcoin to attract $1 trillion from institutions amid raging bull market. Matt made a number of points that I've liked to make in the past. We've seen about 12 billion in net inflows into the Bitcoin spot ETF so far. That's a drop in the bucket to what is coming. Why? Because most RIAs and institutions have not yet even unlocked access to these Bitcoin spot ETFs for themselves or for their clients. We're slowly seeing RIA platforms come online and other institutions, with strong rumors that both Bank of America and Merrill Lynch will be opening the doors to Bitcoin spot ETFs to their clients in the coming months. Now, Matt makes a point that we are already in a raging bull market, but if we just get a 1% allocation from all RIAs and institutional allocators, that would mean another $1 trillion coming into the space. Now, with Bitcoin barely having over $1 trillion market cap itself, imagine what another $1 trillion pouring directly into Bitcoin through the spot ETFs would do for price. He had some very obvious and pragmatic advice for people who are looking at price every day. Keep calm and take the long view. I think we can all agree with Matt Hogan. That's the best approach for Bitcoin. Those who have been dollar cost averaging have effectively been making money for years, and no buy they've ever made is not in profit at the moment. Guys, there's so much more money yet to come into Bitcoin through the spot ETFs. We have the halving coming in less than a month. It's time to buy more Bitcoin and ride this raging bull market.
Now, I will leave that article down below, but that video pretty much summed it up. Next up, let's talk about what's going on with Iren Energy. Iren Energy is one of the best performing Bitcoin miners today. Right now, it's up about 10% as of this upload. It was up like 13%. Seems like it's cooling off now, but it's likely popping on some of this news here. Their 20 exahash expansion is now fully funded, and they are now going to be reporting quarterly, which is a great thing for us shareholders. And they're now sitting on $301 million in cash with no debt. And this expansion is fully funded now with this completion of their targeted ATM dilution. All these miners are doing it, or at least the smartest miners are doing it, because of these run-ups in price. And of course, like I said, short term, this kind of sucks, but if you're looking at the big picture, this solidifies these companies for the longer term. But they are now going to be reporting quarterly, starting with the quarter that ends March 31, so the January, February, March months. We are going to be getting a report on that pretty soon. And it should be a really good earnings for them. Bitcoin absolutely rallied during those months, and I do expect once we start seeing these earnings coming out between the miners, going over the January, February, March quarter, I think it is going to take the market by surprise. A lot of these miners are going to just outright beat their earnings, blow away their earnings, blow their earnings out of the water. That is my expectation. Now, I wanted to touch on their AI really quick. There is more to go over here. Their AI cloud services. They have 816 NVIDIA H100 GPUs that'll generate an estimated 14 to 17 million annualized based on that hardware, which will be a 24-month payback. It would take them about 2 years to pay themselves back for this AI purchase. They've currently got 248 GPUs operating and another 568 undergoing testing and commissioning at their Prince George data center, which is actually capable of operating 30,000 H100s. They also have customer negotiations for new capacity currently in progress. And looking at that 20 exahash that they were talking about, they're currently adding 8 exahash and their 12 additional is going to be progressively shipped and installed during the next 9 months. We should see that hash rate dramatically increase. They should offset the halving rewards being cut quite a bit. And honestly, I'm very excited for Iren Energy. I really like this one. It's also a play on AI similar to Bit Digital. However, they don't hold or stake ETH as Bit Digital does. But regardless of that, the AI with these Bitcoin miners is going to become a new theme in my opinion. They already have access to a lot of energy, and it seems like a natural way for these companies to expand going into AI as well as Bitcoin mining. It gives them some diversification in their revenue streams, and I think this is a good thing. And yes, Iren Energy is seeing a good day today. As I mentioned, seems like it's cooling off a bit now. We do have this important point to keep an eye on. This is kind of the general direction of Iren. It has traded above this line and below it. It has reacted to it. We have used it as a support. We have found it as a resistance. It has been kind of a bouncing off area as support again. And when we break it down or up, we typically see a huge range afterwards, meaning it doesn't always play it as support. If it actually breaks as a support or a resistance, we typically see a huge run afterwards in either direction. So I do suspect, if we can break this resistance here, right around, $7 area. If we can come back and retest this and break it, we might see an accelerated run. We might see a little more run here. You'll also notice that we're in kind of a tightening pattern. We've been establishing higher lows, but we have also been seeing lower highs. And I do suspect we will potentially trade in this range. We might break above this line, find resistance right at this previous resistance trend until we either get a break out of this resistance or a break down from support, potentially create new lower lows or create new higher highs. This is going to be important to watch for Iren. I do think the market is going to react to this fractal, to this pattern here. And going over to the daily, you'll see that we are now above the 50 and the 200 MA. We had our golden cross back at the end of last year, and we have not crossed back since. This is a good thing for Iris. We also filled our gap here in the 5s, and I would say we sufficiently filled our gap here. We at least attempted to fill it. We nearly fully filled it. I do think we can go on our next leg up and continue running. One thing to realize though is we do have the halving approaching. It's roughly 20 days away. This may continue to be a headwind for the miners for the short term until we get past this catalyst. As I've said before, I think the market is kind of treating it as a sell the rumor, buy the news event, meaning they're going to sell off into the halving and then they're going to buy it after the event happens. Kind of the opposite of a buy the rumor, sell the news event, where you buy up to the event and then you sell it. This is kind of the opposite. The market typically does this with negative catalysts. We see a sell-off, and then once that negative catalyst gets past us, it's no longer a headwind and we can continue running. I do expect this with the Bitcoin miners across the board. Now I wanted to say that to say this. I do think now's the time to be buying the Bitcoin miners before the halving, taking advantage of any weakness on the Bitcoin miners, well, whether it's Cleanspark, whether it's BTBT, Iren Energy, your favorites, whether it's Bitfarms, TerraWolf, any miners you're convicted in, now is the time to be buying them. In the end, this is all my opinion, but this is what I'm putting my money on. I am buying these miners in anticipation of the halving rewards being cut. I am taking advantage of these miners while the market sells them off, while they report dilution. Over the long term, the companies that do dilute are going to survive. And as a side note, I think we're going to be pleasantly surprised after the halving, and we are going to see a lot of these miners posting profits. And across the board, these miners have yet to report the January, February, March quarter for them, which was a timeline where Bitcoin absolutely rallied in price. Many of these miners reported the end of last year where Bitcoin was like 20 to 40,000. And Bitcoin's recent run up because of these spot Bitcoin ETFs and everything going on, this hasn't even been reflected yet in earnings. We haven't even seen it yet. So get ready, because I think we are going to be pleasantly surprised once earnings comes around for these companies. And across the board, they are going to surprise us. We're going to likely see revenue beats. We might see profitability where it otherwise wasn't expected. And we're also going to see some great outlooks. Overall, the Bitcoin halving is a huge positive for these miners. Yes, on the short term, it's a negative. Yes, the halving is going to cut rewards in half. But the halving is also going to bring huge price appreciation to Bitcoin that will more than offset the fact these miners are going to take half the rewards. But let me know what you guys think down below. Thanks as always for watching. Let me know what miner you want me to talk about next. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.